It's time for TigerNet Talk with L. Swan.
That's why Carolina's in Chapel Hill and USC's in California. And the university in this state always has been, always will be, Clemson. Print that, tweet that.
And I hope they come in undefeated. That's what I told you before the game. Our team believes. Our team believes. They got heart. We got greatness in us. They say we can't do it. What they say now?
Down go the champs. Auburn's 17-game win streak comes to an end.
Welcome back into another edition of TigerNet Talk. I'm your host, Lawton Swan. Glad to be here with you once again as we roll on the final game of the season, Clemson versus LSU, the Chick-fil-A Bowl, the bowl formerly known as the Peach Bowl, the granddaddy of the South, I guess you could say, when it comes to bowl games. So many people for so many years just enjoyed the Peach Bowl venue, and I know for a lot of people out there, it was a bit of a disappointment when Chick-fil-A bought that sponsorship and took away some of the history and the tradition and maybe even the pageantry of that bowl game. But nonetheless, your Clemson Tigers get another opportunity to head over to Atlanta to take on, as we've mentioned before, another team from the SEC, another set of Tigers in the LSU Tigers and head coach Les Miles. And a ball club, ladies and gentlemen, that you just have to respect given the job that they've done the past few seasons under head coach Les Miles. Well, we got a little late start to the program. I've got to tell you that we had another issue here in studio. It's amazing the little things that go on, but I had an old fluorescent light that I decided to bring in. And to make a long story short, if you're aware of the days of, and maybe this isn't even fluorescent, it's one of those bulbs that when I was in college caught dorms on fire, I think. And it's a little bit more powerful than a fluorescent bulb. Well, as I got ready to start the show right at 9 o'clock Thursday night, of course, we moved the show because of the holidays, and I hope you had a good one, and I hope that you will continue to have a good one as we move towards the new year. I began smelling the odd sensation of burning hair or possibly skin. And I began to panic a little bit, trying to figure out what was burning. And then I realized exactly what it was that all the old residue there in that old light. So I had to change the light out, got the show off to a little bit of a slow start. I do see that we got a couple of people alongside us here and looking forward to you joining us momentarily, as I know that B. Meist is over there getting ready to put things up on the front page of TigerNet as well. We're also broadcasting TigerNet Talk tonight on the front page of ClemsonSportsTalk.com. And if you use an iPad to get to the show, look, I know you're going to have some issues with it because for whatever reason, and I can't explain it, I'm trying to work on it now. When you go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com on an iPad, it looks awful. Not my fault. It's something to do with the Spreecast player. We're going to try and get that adjusted, though, over the next several days for you, and hopefully that will be perfect eventually so that everything looks good on iPads and iPods. I do apologize, and iPhones even. I apologize for that. Here is how you take part in the show. And I noticed last week we didn't have as much punch to us. Maybe it was because there was a little bit of a lull in the season. You're kind of waiting on the bowl season, but this show, guaranteeing we are going to deliver something special for you. We've got, of course, our predictions. We've got, of course, Greg Wallace is going to join us here on the program. All of that and a whole lot more for you. Here's how you participate, though. You can come in the chat room. You can spend some time with the guys in there. You can also tweet to us, hashtag TNTalk. Email us, Clemson81@gmail.com, or give us a phone call if you want to, 803-450-0086. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this Clemson-LSU matchup from the Georgia Dome Monday night, December 31st, the last day of 2012. Thank goodness the Mayans were wrong because we still get this bowl game at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta, 7:30 p.m. Big game. And for Clemson, a huge opportunity. The last time Clemson won a bowl game was basically a meaningless 2009 Music City Bowl, 21-13. Now, the coaches will tell you there are no meaningless games. It is hard to get a win. It doesn't matter who you are playing. It is difficult to get a win. But that was the last bowl victory for the Clemson Tigers. And the last time Clemson defeated a top 25 ranked team in a bowl game, you'll remember it well, 2003, after a up and down season, closing it out strong with some victories, including, you say it with me now, folks, 63-17 over the South Carolina Gamecocks. Clemson went on to play Tennessee in the Chick-fil-A Bowl in Atlanta and got a win there as well. So the last time that was a 27-14 score. The Volunteers were ranked 6th headed into that game. And the first matchup against LSU since the 1996 Peach Bowl, which was a 10-7 win for LSU. The Tigers all-time 0-2 versus LSU. And last season, if you listen to the program, you know the excitement that we had here on the program, that the fan base had for the team going back to the Orange Bowl, the stomping grounds of 1982, some 30 years later preparing to play in the Orange Bowl again. And for whatever reason, the more you hear coming out of this program now, the more you hear from the coaching staff and the players, maybe these guys got a little caught up in what was going on around them. Maybe they started to breathe, feel like they were in rare air, if you will, and get a little bit ahead of themselves in what they expected to happen down in Miami. Almost like, can we equate it to a kid going to Disney World for the first time? Your parents take you, and you're just thrilled. Now, mind you, my parents never took me to Disney World. I'm assuming this is how it goes down. I have been to Disneyland, but never Disney World. That's a sore subject. I'm just going to have to take a minute and gather myself. But I'm assuming it's like when your parents take you down to Disneyland for the first time, and you're 6, 7 years old, and you're excited about going. You've got this great opportunity, and you get there, and you're just flying through everything. You're just riding the rides over and over, but you're never really taking it all in. You're never really experiencing it. Maybe you're getting one of those goofy-looking Mickey Mouse hats with your name across the front. You probably have some of those at home, somewhere in a closet. You might not want to admit it. Maybe you're putting on the big Mickey gloves. You're getting photos with Donald and Goofy. But you forget that you're in a magical kingdom. You forget that you're experiencing something that maybe you'll never get another chance to experience. Because you're a little bit naive and believe that, oh, we'll be right back there. The Orange Bowl? Sure. Next season, we're there. National championship. You start to believe that you're going to go every single year, so you take for granted the opportunity that's presented to you. And you take advantage of everything available, but never really focus on the grand prize. And that was the experience and the chance to be there. And almost, I guess, kind of like a kid who maybe their parent takes them to Washington, D.C. for the first time. You can't appreciate all that's there. And for those fans who realized how long it was, for 30 grueling seasons, even though you can equate some of those to being great, to get back to that monumental moment, to be at the top of the mountain, or I guess in Disneyland terms, the Matterhorn, and fall flat on your face was such a disappointment for so many people. The fans realized what they had wasted, and until the clock ran out, I'm not sure the players realized it either. And maybe the grueling offseason factored into that as well. Hearing it constantly, the questions, how will you respond to 70-33? What are you going to do to be better than 70-33? How do you bounce back from 70-33? Lingering over and over in the ears of the players. While this year, we are not in a BCS bowl game, we are in one of the better bowl games. And you could argue, and I think it's a very fair statement to make at this point, that a win over LSU in the Chick-fil-A Bowl equates to more than winning a BCS bowl game over West Virginia, based on what LSU has done. So we've got this whole issue right now of, do you believe what the team is telling you this season, that we are focused, that we are prepared for this game, that it is a big game against an SEC school and a chance for Clemson to show that they belong amongst the elite. Because, ladies and gentlemen, when you classify conferences and schools, when you classify Clemson and LSU, LSU falls into that elite category. I'm not sold on LSU as far as being one of the jobs that people clamor for that comes wide open. I think it's there. It's amongst the greats. But I've thrown out there before the Texas, the Floridas, the schools where people really want to go. And I think that pretty much any coach would be dumb to turn down that job given the opportunity. But is it a school that's a major player in 3 sports? No. They're great in baseball, great in football, and occasionally they'll do something in basketball. But for Clemson, this is a game against an elite team. Auburn, National Championship 2010, not elite. South Carolina, best 3-year, 4-year run they've had ever, not elite. You could argue that those teams at times have been on the cusp. Obviously, Auburn not now. Maybe South Carolina's trying to climb their way in. But Clemson is right there as well. And even though the opportunity this season against South Carolina faltered, you have a chance now to close things out in a grand format. And even though the team, and Dabo Swinney said it himself, the team that lines up next year will have nothing to do with the team that takes the snaps this season, at least you get a positive vibe and a positive momentum heading into that game against the Georgia Bulldogs. Look, I don't think that either team that's going to be on the field Monday night is perfect. I don't think that either team could not have gone undefeated either. I think both of these teams had opportunities this year. Clemson leading after the half in every single game this season and at the half in every game just tells you the potency of this offense and the opportunity that could present itself. The chat room is wide open. We're excited to have you, and let's hope that these guys are right, that they're not taking this big game for granted. Because if they are, you are not going to be as disappointed as you could be or last year. Stay with us.
We're on the quest for the best, and we can't let anything hold us back.
These boys can't hold us back. These boys can't hold us back.
Enjoy the Clemson football season at Seasons by the Lake Restaurant. Tiger Tailgate on the Terrace at Seasons Restaurant will be held every Clemson football game day, rain or shine, home or away, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for those day games and noon to midnight for the evening kickoffs. Enjoy a large screen TV, a Bloody Mary and mimosa bar, specialty drinks, and a great tailgate menu, all on the Seasons Terrace. For more information, call 656-7444. or visit their Facebook page, facebook.com/seasonsbythelake. I hope to see you on the terrace.
We scoop the boot, dutycalls.com, when nobody else will do it, dutycalls.com, to make that dog poop go away. Call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to dutycalls.com now.
DOODYCALLS. Dutycalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number 1 and number 2. G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services through football season. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove. Are you a landowner who owns more than 10 acres that's interested in selling timber or pulpwood off your property? Cross Creek Timber is a full-service timber procurement company that buys standing saw timber and pulpwood. They're staffed with professional licensed foresters and fully insured with both workers' comp and general liability insurance. Let Cross Creek Timber develop the appropriate harvesting plan for your property and answer any questions regarding forest management. Call today, 864-517-3620. That's 864-517-3620 for your free woodland evaluation, or visit www.crosscreektimber.com.
I thought I'd grow up and I'd settle down. There was 10,000 girls up in Tiger Town, and it was heaven to me.
Oh yeah, welcome back in to TigerNet Talk.
I used to sneak downtown with my fake ID.
I'm your host, Lawton Swan. Glad to be here with you once again. Normally Sunday nights at 9, Wednesday nights at 9. The holidays pushed us back a day, and we're glad to have you with us as we talk about your favorite team, the Clemson Tigers. Hashtag TN Talk on Twitter. Email us, Clemson81@gmail.com, or give us a call, 803-450-0086. And, you know, I got a text message just a moment ago from my brother-in-law saying, what are you talking about? Are you saying this game is bigger than the Gamecock game? Well, I think in the context of where we sit today, you would have to say yes. Compared to the game that's already been played, a loss. Now, on a yearly basis, I think people at this point, losing 4 straight to the South Carolina Gamecocks, would say, if you could sacrifice this game and win next year, you'd find fans that would do it, oddly enough. You would find fans who would do it, who would be willing to sacrifice things. And the folks in the chat room are saying that the speaker volume dropped a little bit. I'm checking on that. Hopefully it's gotten a little bit better. I don't know. Everything looks okay here from where I sit. But I think there is a portion of the fan base, and this is probably that fringe portion that would say, yeah, we'll sacrifice. They would sell out this game for a win next season. I personally would not. Because as good as LSU is, this means more. It's on a big stage. The lights will be on. It's SEC versus ACC, and it could kickstart a great season next year that you could still close out with a win. But some people, to guarantee a win, would sell out. I'll ask the question to the chat room. Would you sell out a loss here? Just a quick chat. Would you sell it out in order to beat the South Carolina Gamecocks next season? Would you take another smackdown? 45-3. Clemson Tom. You guys know he's as ardent Tiger fan as there is. He says yes. Corey says yes. Apparently I am listened to by the fringe fans, because I don't think I would. I really don't. For me, the belief is that this game is just the beginning to the snowball of what could occur next season. But when you talk about Clemson and you talk about South Carolina, you can't forget about what's happened the past 4 years. And Dabo Swinney, when you look head-to-head versus Spurrier in 4 seasons, here's what you get. Basically, Dabo, in his first 4 full seasons, you take away that portion that he had at the end of the year after Tommy Bowden left the program. He's 35-18 with a Music City Bowl victory being his only bowl win. He's 1-3 in bowl games, and that was in year number 1. On the flip side, Steve Spurrier, in his first 4 years at South Carolina, was 28-22. A lot worse than Dabo Swinney has been at Clemson, with only 1 bowl win, and that was a Liberty Bowl victory in year number 2, and going 2-4 in bowl games since he's been there, while Dabo's 1-3 in his bowl opportunities. More people saying yes, they would sacrifice this LSU game. Now, is that because you don't think we're going to win this game? That might be a better question for the chat room. Are you just selling this one out because you already picked LSU? You already went out and told people, yeah, man, I think LSU's going to win this game. Maybe that's the reason people are so willing to throw it away. They don't even think we stand a chance here, so they're going to go ahead and just tank it. I don't know. I don't know what David says we're going to win. Everybody, Clemson Tom says it's going to be tough, but we can win. Corey says, we too deep. I love it. Thank you for being here, everybody in the chat room. But when you look at the first the last 3 seasons, for Dabo Swinney, if you consider that to be the prime of what Steve Spurrier has been able to do at South Carolina. Dabo Swinney has gone 26-13 in those same 3 years that South Carolina has gone 30-9. A mere 4 games difference in the two programs. 3 of those would be games that South Carolina beat Clemson. Had Dabo Swinney been able to get through the South Carolina Gamecocks, you're talking about basically flip-flopping which one of these head coaches has the lead in the series, going head-to-head, including every other game around them, including every other game they play on their schedule. It's that close. These are the glory years for the South Carolina Gamecocks at 30-9, and Clemson fans feel like, we're okay going 26-13. But it's those 4 losses that have continued to haunt Dabo Swinney, and you can look at his record against non-conference opponents. 4-8 since he's been at Clemson against non-conference opponents. 2 wins against Auburn. He beat Kentucky, and he beat South Carolina. That's the out-of-conference victories. You've got 4 losses to South Carolina. A loss to South Florida, TCU, West Virginia, and Nebraska. So you can start to add that up. And if he beats South Carolina, if he had found a way, then he's 8-4. Instead, he's 4-8, and people are still coming after him about it. People are always going to come after him until he begins to prove himself against the South Carolina Gamecocks. And there are a great many of you out there who would be willing to fire Dabo Swinney, irregardless of what happens against LSU and what happens next season. 10 more wins, 11 more wins, whatever, if the game is not won in Columbia, South Carolina in late November against the South Carolina Gamecocks. We've got a couple of questions here in the chat room. Let's see. A couple of statements as well, including this one from Clemson Tom that says, this is a statement game against LSU. I completely agree. And talking about would we learn a lesson as I went into break moments ago and left you hanging for just a second, would we learn a lesson coming out of this game like maybe we did last season going up against West Virginia? Corey says, I think this team and staff really learned a huge lesson last year, and let's hope they did. Because if they didn't, if they got over to Atlanta, and maybe it helps that they played in Atlanta already this season, they've been around the city a little bit, it's not such a long trip, it's not a BCS bowl game, the media coverage is probably not the same, even though you're going up against an LSU team. And I think even though it's a contrast of styles, obviously we know that in what Clemson saw last season versus West Virginia, you are going up against a bigger and more nationally known opponent. You still have to hope that because it's so much closer to home, that Dabo's changed the schedule up a little bit. They've done a little bit more aggressive practicing and the way things have been scheduled, not going so early to Atlanta. Maybe that will help in the outcome of the game. Maybe that will help this team play better when the lights are on. But if the question is this a big game? Is it bigger than the South Carolina game? At this point, I would say absolutely it has to be. Because this is a chance against a team who is nationally known and recognized as being one of the elite and just a few plays away from being in the national championship game. Clemson isn't holding on to that fact. Clemson's not saying we were just a couple of plays away from the national title. But Clemson clearly was very close against Florida State, up 28-14. Was very close at times against South Carolina. But this game is the one that's the most important for me that we've played this entire season. And I'll stand by that. Stay with us. Do you suffer from a chronic case of the woohoo during football games? Do your Saturdays sound something a bit like this? Well, TigerNet Talk is out to fix that. If we can band together, we can change this reoccurring issue. With a simple Go Tigers, Go Tigers Go, you can make a difference. Ban the woohoo. Do yourself a favor. And as always, Go Tigers. Take your business to the next level with innovative website design from Foodog Media. Foodog can handle all your web, graphic, and social media needs. Call them today, 843-864-9268. That's 843-864-9268. Mention this ad and receive 10% off of your website. Foodog is a Clemson-owned business. See their portfolio at www.foodogmedia.net. May the food be with you. G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services through football season. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove.
Hate the thought of shopping? All that hassle and can't find what you're looking for anyway? We understand. Retail stores make it difficult. Instead, try www.edistooutdoors.com. Edisto Outdoors features performance apparel and gear engineered for performance, comfort, and style. EdistoOutdoors.com. You'll enjoy the shopping and you'll enjoy the products. Great products from people who care.
Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
Coach Ford, I wrote this song for you. I'm singing from my heart. There's something special in your style. I've known it from the start. Oh, listen up, we won't give up. We'll soon be number one. We'll be grinning from ear to ear when the football season.
Well, let's hope the Clemson Tigers are grinning from ear to ear when the football season's done as they take on LSU out of the SEC. Both of these ball clubs come in 10-2, and we're joined now by Greg Wallace. You can follow him on Twitter. He's at GC_Wallace. And Greg, as always, it's good to have you here on TigerNet Talk, and appreciate you taking time out of your evening to talk a little bit about the Chick-fil-A Bowl.
Sure, no problem. Happy to come out with you, absolutely.
Well, Greg, you do such a great job covering this Clemson Tiger team, and as always, I appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us, and you're so close and entwined and in tune with everybody there, the coaching staff and the players. What's the vibe around this team? We continue to hear that they're focused, that they're prepared, that they're taking a different approach to this game than they did last season. Is that the same feeling that you're gathering as you've been there covering the Clemson Tigers?
Yeah, I actually got a vibe just talking with people at Taj Boyd that there's a little bit different feeling than there was last year. I mean, maybe a little bit more focused. I think that Taj mentioned to us, several of us talking to us last week, that going into the game last year, maybe there wasn't much focus. I think part of it might have been the fact that they won the ACC championship game against Virginia Tech. There was a lot of excitement around that game. They felt they'd arrived, and it's hard to remember, but West Virginia was a team that had just barely snuck into the Orange Bowl. I think they were like the tri-champions of the Big East, and they're the only team that was in BCS top 25. There wasn't a lot of buzz around West Virginia really last year. I think there's a lot more buzz around this game, and there's a sense that Clemson wants to have some redemption this year. They want to kind of make up for what happened against South Carolina, what happened against Florida State, and obviously an LSU team that's a top 10 team, a team that was maybe a minute or two and a screen pass away from possibly playing for the national championship. Certainly will ride that kind of opposition. It's the kind of game that you can really feel good about if you're Clemson, if you're able to hang tough and win this game against LSU in the Chick-fil-A Bowl.
Yeah, and I can't remember who was playing last season. I think it was South Florida and somebody, and maybe Rutgers, and there was a field goal made, and then it was like, oh, and that means West Virginia is going to the Orange Bowl. If I'd have known that was going to cause 70-33 to occur, I may have taken a little bit more attention, paid a little more attention when that happened. But you've got so many people out there. I talk about the fringe fan base, and maybe it's unfair to say, but there are people who consider a 10-2 season so far by Clemson playing in the Chick-fil-A Bowl, even though it's against LSU, a disappointment. Is there any case to be made that that's a fair statement to make?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any case that it's a disappointment. I think that obviously when you look at what Dabo took over 3-4 years ago, 2008, I think it's pretty incredible, despite how the ACC has been down this year. It's pretty incredible to have back-to-back 10-win seasons, the ACC title, and share of the Atlantic Division, although they did not win it, obviously, with the tied Florida State. Florida State won tiebreaker by head-to-head. But I think it's unfair to say that's a disappointment. Obviously, there are a lot of people out there who want to beat South Carolina every year. Clemson fans have gotten used to that. It hasn't happened the last 4 years. I think that's pretty clear. I don't blame them for that. But I don't think the 10-2 is disappointment. I do think that it would validate the season a lot. I think you look at Clemson's schedule, the only two teams they've beaten with more than 6 wins are Ball State, who won 9 games and played in the Beagle Braves Bowl, and then NC State, who won 7 games. So, and look what they got them. They got Tom O'Brien fired. So I think that it's a big opportunity for Clemson. Definitely Monday night in the Georgia Dome. Absolutely, no question about it.
Well, when you look at this team, we always talk about coming into the season, the players that we expect to have a good year. But who was the player in your mind so far that really exceeded expectations for Clemson during the regular season?
There's several guys. I think that obviously Brandon Thomas had a pretty darn, outside of playing against J.V. Clowney in the finale, I think he had a pretty darn good season, all ACC season. I was surprised by that. A guy that I was really impressed with, 2 linebackers I was actually pretty impressed with. Number one was Tick Willard, who was just maybe gone under the radar. He just was steady and unsung all season, seemed to make all the plays.
Yeah.
And also Spencer Shuey was really impressive. I think who would have predicted that Spencer Shuey, of all people, nothing against him, but who would have predicted he would have then seen a 5-star prospect, Stephon Anthony, who had been handed the keys to defense from this first day of spring practice, and would be playing starting a middle linebacker by the end of the year. But I mean, his safety against Georgia Tech really sparked that game, really sparked Clemson's finishing kick in that game, and that was a big game for the season. And they were kind of nervous in that game. And then he's played really well the rest of the season. I think he's a guy who's probably going to go in and would look to be the middle linebacker next season, that's starting spring. And I think you may see a guy like Stephon Anthony move outside to Will with Willard gone. So those are 2 guys that would really impress me. And the defense has not been up to Clemson standards, but I think it's been pretty good in terms of linebacker core.
We're talking with Greg Wallace. You can follow him on Twitter. He's at GC_Wallace. And Greg covers the Clemson Tigers. And Greg, lots of people in the chat room were yelling at me, Hopkins, Nuke. Talk about the season that young man has had. And coming into the year, you knew he was going to get some early opportunities, obviously, with Sammy Watkins and the suspension that went on. But once he came forward at the beginning of the year, he didn't stop, and he continues to roll on. Another thing I'll add in on the back end of this, do you think he's going to be back at Clemson?
Well, yeah, start off with this season. Obviously, yeah, that was – I think a lot of fans would take a bookend of what he did to Georgia Dome start the season with the 13 catches and making the great fading catch in the right corner of the end zone to win that game against Auburn. But, yeah, he's had a really impressive season. I think he's really developed. I think that it was big for him to have the off-season without playing basketball. I think this was the first time in his life he hadn't played basketball in the off-season, that he had a full season to devote to weights and strength training and conditioning and so on, and it shows. I think that's a big deal for him. I think that he really showed that he could be a big play receiver. I think that he maybe benefited some from Sammy Watkins coming back and defense focusing on Sammy, but he still proved he could be one-on-one coverage to beat some double teams down the stretch as well. I think obviously he has the leaping ability in the hands. He's kind of a quiet guy. Maybe he didn't get the national attention because he is kind of quiet. Not a guy who speaks to media a lot. But I think he's really impressive. I think that I would not be surprised if he left, to be honest with you. I think that from the rumblings I've heard, he comes from a situation where he may be inclined to go get the money right now. I think talking to Mel Kiper on teleconference a couple weeks ago, he said he would probably be a second-round pick. That's still pretty significant money. It's not first-round money, but that's pretty significant money for someone who doesn't have a lot of money. I think that would be a factor. I think Dan will mention that he knows that he likes to have guys be assured of the first-round selection before he would suggest they go. But he also brought up a guy like Jamie Harper, who basically said he was done with school, he wanted to go get paid, and he's still in the NFL. I mean, he's a fourth-round pick, I believe, but he's in the NFL. He's probably on the Tennessee Titans roster as a blocking fullback guy who gets the ball once in a while. So
right.
I'd be surprised if he did not come back next year.
Now, we talked moments ago.
I'd be surprised if he did come back. I'm sorry.
Right, yeah. And I think most people feel that way. I'm on the fence still because I think I think that you're seeing a little bit something different in this ball club that we didn't see years ago, especially when, for whatever reason, Tommy Bowden was there, this family-type atmosphere. I hate to say that because I thought at the time Tommy Bowden was doing a great job, but players right and left were leaving early. And I think that Dabo Swinney, he was able to keep C.J. Spiller. I think maybe the opportunity's still there, but I'm still a little on the fence. But a minute ago we talked about those players who exceeded expectations. Who left the most to be desired in your mind on this ball club this season? Who's the guy or a couple of guys maybe that at the end of the year you said, man, I really thought we'd see more?
Yeah, there's a couple of guys like that. Like, for example, Stephon Anthony. I thought that, going back to him a little bit, I thought he was a guy who was really poised at the end of last season to take control of the defense, simply did not do it. Was supplanted by Spencer Shuey. Did not play single snap in terms of defense. He might play some special teams. I don't think he played single defensive snap against South Carolina. And that really surprised me. I asked Brett Venables about it. He said it was just a situational thing, but still, that's a surprising thing to me. A couple guys like some of the bigger wide receivers, some of the sophomores, not named Sammy Watkins, although Sammy had a tough season.
Yeah.
Documented with his injury suspensions. But I thought that Jerome Peak and Martavis Bryant would take a step forward this year each, and neither of them really emerged to be that consistent big play guy, although it's difficult when you do have DeAndre Hopkins and Adam Humphries and Brandon Ford and Sammy Watkins offense. There's always going to be balls to go around. But Martavis Bryant in particular was inconsistent. I think he was suspended for the bowl game in terms for violating some study hall rules, skipping some study halls. And I think that coaches know that he has to get some more focus next year to become a better player, especially if a guy like DeAndre Hopkins is gone. He's going to be your Jerome Peter, a guy to step into that role. And I think it's going to be big for those guys to step forward in their junior years.
And finally, Greg, we'll get you out of here. You can follow Greg Wallace on Twitter. He's at GC_Wallace. Greg, what's your final analysis on this Chick-fil-A Bowl coming up Monday night?
I actually think it's going to be pretty interesting battle. I think it's going to be a close game. I think LSU is favored by, I believe, 4 points. I think it's going to be a game much like the South Carolina game where points are going to be difficult to come by. I think the LSU has a really impressive defense with Mingo and Montgomery, and also guys like Mentor and some other guys in the secondary and the linebacker core that are going to be NFL talents guys playing on Sunday. I think Taj Boyd's going to have to do a better job of reading defense. I think the line's going to have to do a better job protecting him. But I think ultimately it will come down to a few plays in the fourth quarter. I'm predicting LSU wins right now just because I think it's a proven game for Clemson for me. They have to prove they can win these kind of games. But that said, I would not be surprised if Clemson pulled out the dome. I think that they got the dome jinx off their backs. They're beating Auburn, and I think that they're comfortable there, and they will certainly be motivated for this game.
Great job, Greg, as always. I appreciate you being here. And Clemson Tom continues to shout at me that I have to ask you to sing a duet with him in karaoke. I think next time you come on, I'm going to have some music queued up for you guys.
I'll see what I can do. You maybe have to prove it beforehand, but we'll see what we can do.
All right, I'll see you, Greg. Thanks a lot, man.
Great.
All right, didn't mean to cut Greg off that quick, but Greg Wallace of the formerly, I guess, of the Anderson Independent Mail, if you read his tweet, he is now at GC_Wallace, and appreciate him being on the program with us. Stay on, though. We'll be back. Our prediction and the PS3 prediction of the Chick-fil-A Bowl. All that right here on TigerNet Talk.
In my head, if I pointed it just right. We scoop the boot, dutycalls.com. When nobody else will do it, dutycalls.com. To make that dog poop go away, call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to dutycalls.com now.
DOODYCalls. Dutycalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number 1 and number 2. Enjoy the Clemson football season at Seasons by the Lake Restaurant. Tiger Tailgate on the Terrace at Seasons Restaurant will be held every Clemson football game day, rain or shine, home or away, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for those day games and noon to midnight for the evening kickoffs. Enjoy a large screen TV, a Bloody Mary and mimosa bar, specialty drinks, and a great tailgate menu, all on the Seasons Terrace. For more information, call 656-7444 or visit their Facebook page, facebook.com/Seasons by the Lake. I hope to see you on the terrace. Take your business to the next level with innovative website design from Foodog Media. Foodog can handle all your web, graphic, and social media needs. Call them today, 843-864-9268. That's 843-864-9268. Mention this ad and receive 10% off of your website. Foodog is a Clemson-owned business. See their portfolio at www.foodogmedia.net. May the food be with you. Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
This is Clemson Tom, and you're listening to Clemson Sports Talk. So sit down and have you a cold one and listen to a true American.
I like driving down Clemson Boulevard.
TigerNet Talk rolling along. I'm your host, Lawton Swan. Glad to be here with you. Thanks to everybody in the chat room for being here, and I appreciate Greg Wallace for joining us as well. And now we get to my favorite part of the program. We got a couple of things to take care of, though, first. Got a couple of questions from the chat room I want to get to real quick. David says, what will be the biggest recruit we get that isn't already committed? Well, if you listen to the program over a time period of this entire season, I guess, for the most part, once Robert Kimdichie decommitted, he's been the kid I've said from the get-go we have not heard say, I will not go to Clemson. Now, if that was the question, I would say Kimdichie, but we all know that that's still a very slippery slope, and perhaps that may not be the guy. But if I had to reach outside of him as being the person who I think might still come to Clemson, I think Mackenzie Alexander would be my guy. And the reason that I think he would be the most impactful, even though you could look at Montravius Adams of the world and the Carl Lawsons, while there's still a shot for Clemson in some of those situations, I think Alexander is a kid who could come in and really improve Clemson's secondary. And I think it's been a position that Clemson's missed on a good bit this season, and he would be a guy that could come in and basically be the biggest recruit that we have that isn't already committed. But the number one player in the country, Robert Kimdichie, is the guy that I'm still holding out a little bit of hope for because of the way this thing is played out and from what the intel we got at the beginning. Once we first heard this was going to happen, and the more I see it, things are still shaping up the way I saw them happening the minute people panicked about him. Bryce says he thinks we'll flip Carl Lawson. That would be huge. Can you imagine Lawson, Kimdichie, and Adams? You talk about all of a sudden getting the big uglies up front, somebody to flat out get after some quarterbacks in the Atlantic Coast Conference and any SEC foe we take on. That would be huge. Craig, speaking of big nasties, not Craig. Craig's not a big nasty. He says that we got to keep their big nasties off of Taj Boyd, and that's where I think games are obviously won and lost at college football. At the NFL level, it's at the line of scrimmage. It's going to be very important down the road for Clemson, much like what South Carolina's tried to do, much like what LSU and Alabama do each and every season. They've tried to build from the defensive line. And that's where you can see Dabo Swinney focusing that attention. Clemson clearly has the skill players to play with any team in America. But if you can't protect your quarterback, it makes it very difficult. I agree, Craig, and you'll find out in just a few minutes that I think that is one of the big keys to this game. And finally, we're going to send it out to a voicemail we got from our man Norman. Norman used the send voicemail feature on ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Since he couldn't be here with us live, if you're listening to the podcast, you could still call 803-450-0086. Those lines are always open. But there's another way you can do it using your computer that might be easier for some of you on ClemsonSportsTalk.com. And here is Norman's thoughts on the ball game.
Hey, Lon, this is Norman. Well, it's almost December 31st, and I think we're going to find out if my theory is correct. We know that LSU has a top 5 defense, and we know that Clemson has a top 5 or top 6 offense in the country. So we're going to find out whether or not defenses win championships or offenses win championships. This is a great game, and I think Clemson has an opportunity to win it, and I hope they do, but I'm still leaning towards a great defense to prevail in this one.
So Norm has the feeling that a great defense is going to propel in this one. We're going to send it out to the phone lines. We got another call coming in. Hopefully this one came through. I know we had some problems just a few minutes ago getting it through, but I'm sure you heard it ringing there in the background. But caller, go ahead with your call. And no luck. I don't know what's going on with the phone lines. I see that we've got a call coming in. I'll try and take it, but it looks like we're not going to be able to. Caller, go ahead. Not sure what's going on there. But if you do want to give us a call, we'll take another call here, 803-450-0086. Let me close this. That might be the problem, that I have my inbox open, and it may be trying to answer there. We got a call coming in. Here we go out to the phone lines.
Well, pickup. We asked you to let us know that you're not a voicemail system, so you need to press 1 to take this call.
I'll take that call. Go ahead, caller.
Lawton,
Yes.
what's going on, brother?
Nothing.
Listen,
Nothing much.
Tom, I couldn't let someone pick LSU on the probably the best Clemson sports talk show ever. This ain't gonna happen on my watch.
Nice. I like it.
Can we both agree that Clemson's got a great chance to beat LSU, the Bayou Bengals in Atlanta? We're gonna come in. We're kind of pissed off, Lawton. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was on the sidelines when we lost to the Gamecocks. When you get beat down like that, you got to come back up and just start swinging for the fences. Like the second half of Rocky III, Lawton. We're going to all be there. And LSU, they're coming in thinking that they're not going to be playing the real Tigers. Lawton, we're the real Tigers. We play in the real Death Valley. We get the daggum rock from California, from the National Forest, whatever they want to call it. I don't even care if we bring the rock, Lawton.
Right.
But Taj and the whole offensive line is going to stop all of their defensive players that think they're going to come at us. We are a team that is looking for revenge. We're angry. We're mad. And you keep poking a dog in a cage with a stick, he's going to come out biting, Lawton. And guess what? His name is Ford, F-350 Diesel, Sammy Watkins, Nuke Hopkins, Taj Boyd, Andre Ellington. We're coming out hunting, Lawton. Are you going to be ready? You going to be ready to watch what happens December 31st, 7:30 p.m., ESPN, Atlanta, Georgia?
I think we all are. This is why I think this is the biggest game of the season. I said at the beginning, I'll stand by it. I think it's the biggest game of the year, and I think you could argue it's the biggest game Clemson's played 5, maybe 10 years.
I don't know if it's going to be 10 years. I know it's going to be the biggest game to date. I mean, at Florida State was pretty big. I mean, when South Carolina came calling. But everybody in the nation, those 2 games were prime time. And everybody's looking, oh, Clemson lost to West Virginia. I hear it all day, Lawton. I hear it every single day of the week. This is a statement game. We need to go out and just let LSU know who they're really playing. The orange helmets with the paw on the side, we're going to be there for 4 straight quarters. I hope we get at least 5 flagrant fouls on defense, at least in the first quarter, just to let LSU know that they can't do anything up the middle, they can't do anything deep, and I hope that somebody, number 99 problems on Mettenberger, heck, hit him in the throat one time when you sack him, just on principle. We need to let these people know that we're going to be there, and it's going to be a dog fight, or actually, it's going to be a cat fight. Lawton, I'm mad, I'm angry, my car is packed, laundry's done, everything's put up in the car, I'm ready for Sunday, I'm headed to Atlanta. Are you going to be there?
Brother, you are fired up. You're calling them out.
I'm fired up. I've had 0 Red Bulls, 0 5-hour energies. I've just been sitting here, listening to the haters, commenting on the YouTube videos. Yes, I stole Mike the Tiger. That's what happens when you're Paul from Lawton. We can take your mascot. I can't wait till we get less I clap with all palms miles on the sidelines. Just go ahead and feed him a little spicy chicken sandwich and pour a little, hot sauce in that thing. Make it a little spicy. We're going to kick him in the throat, Lawton. You know what? What do kids say? A-town up or whatever. I don't even know if they're going to be there. I'm going to be in Atlanta, Lawton. I might burn the dadgum thing down. Love the show. Love the new podcast.
Now I want to know this. I want to know this though, Tom, because we talk about Clemson's offense going up against the LSU defense. Let's talk about the real thing that's concerned Clemson fans out there. Oh, he's gone. Couldn't put him in the hot seat. But we're going to go on with it because now I guess I get my chance to roll Clemson Tom calling in the program. A lot of support in the chat room. Clemson Tom says, put me on the hot seat. My question to Tom was going to be, but what do you say to those people who are more concerned about this Clemson Tiger defense than anything else? That's the thing for me. When you look at this game right now, LSU, their style, the way they play offensively, their scheme, and it's not to use Mettenberger through the air. They don't rely on Zach Mettenberger to save the day. Even though coming out of high school, he was a kid who was known for his arm. Now you see what they're doing with 4 running backs. People in the chat room saying, it's the Shark Swan, the Tiger Sharks. Clemson Tom loves to call the linebacker core the Tiger Sharks. Spencer Shuey says, I think it's number 1 shark. But let me give you the PS3 predictions as they came down from our main man, Sammy. Not Watkins, O'Neal. Now, typically I take Sammy's prediction and I give you everything that he tells me. But I just happened to see on TigerNet today that there was an online version of what we've been doing the entire season, except this guy was doing the bowl games. And he had Clemson playing LSU, and Clemson's secondary was getting burnt over and over and over. But the offense was playing good enough to hold a lead late. LSU scored a late touchdown to tie the game. Clemson did win that game in overtime, 24-21. So it was a 3-point win for Clemson. Well, in the PS3 simulation that Sammy sent us, LSU had 590 total yards. Clemson had 544. Zach Mettenberger went 34 for 45 for 525 yards and 4 touchdowns. 3 picks, though, were big in this game. Taj Boyd, on the other hand, went 19 of 29 for 383 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick, but he did take 4 sacks. That could be key. Rushing the football, Spencer Ware had 20 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown. And for Clemson, it was Andre Ellington toting the ball 18 times for 59 yards. Taj Boyd carried the ball more than I would like to see, but he has improved his footwork and speed this year, 20 times for 94 yards and a score. He put the biscuit on the ground twice, though. Receiving, Russell Shepard had 7 catches for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns. That could be important when we look at this ball game based on Clemson's secondary, the injuries that have happened, the lack of technique that occurred under the watch of Charlie Harbison, and improvement throughout the season that did not take place. Receiving for the Tigers, they spread the ball all over the field. Jerron Brown had 3 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. Sammy Watkins, 3 grabs, 92 yards and 2 scores. Andre Ellington, 4 catches, 43 yards, a touchdown. F. Ford, 150, what did Clemson Tom call him? 1 catch for 50 yards, oddly enough. So right here I have Ford, 150. Humphreys had 5 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown, but it was LSU in the PS3 simulation, F350. Thank you, Craig. I don't know my trucks. I don't know my trucks. Although I bet the F350 is a nice looking ride. LSU wins it 48-7. to 45 in this simulation, which oddly enough, LSU didn't rush the ball hardly at all. They threw the ball all over the field, maybe taking advantage of Clemson's secondary. 3-point win for LSU and a 3-point win for Clemson in the two simulations. I don't know where you put your money. I don't know where you're going to how you pick this. I don't think you can be wrong for picking LSU. I think Greg's made a very logical pick on it. I think we've seen folks in the chat room talking about it. I know Norm said he thinks it's going to be a good defense that wins out. There's so many things that go into this, though, for me. First off, Taj Boyd's ability to keep the play alive has been key the entire season. However, against South Carolina and Florida State, those plays made by Taj Boyd with his feet weren't as apparent as they were against other defenses. And by the way, if you're saying something in the chat room, I'm not looking over there right now, so it's the F354 Diesel, Clemson Tom says. But in those two games against the top teams, the two losses that Clemson had, even though Taj Boyd had been great the entire season, better than he was last year, keeping the ball alive with his feet, he did not do as well because those defenses are, quite frankly, the best two defenses Clemson played all season. And I think you could argue from a physicality, the standpoint of the recruits that are on the team, LSU is right there with those two and maybe better than both of those two. Taj Boyd was sacked 7 times in those two games. You see in the simulation 4 sacks. You got to hope that doesn't happen. LSU is very strong. We've talked about Mingo. We've talked about Montgomery. Can I call them the M&Ms? We talked about those guys. You know what they can do. We've seen them All-American, All-SEC, great defensive ends. The type of defensive ends that Clemson would like to have. The types of defensive ends that can make or break championships. But when LSU went up against a guy like Texas A&M's Johnny Manziel, who won the Heisman, who was Mr. Everything in America for a lot of people, not overly impressive to me. His numbers were good. I don't think he deserved the Heisman Trophy, I think that's more of a product of the news media. They did intercept Manziel 3 times, kept him well below his season average, and squeaked out a big victory. And that's what this team has done this year, this LSU ball club. Clemson not known for winning tight ball games. Clemson not known for finding a way at the end. LSU, the Mad Hatter, whatever. You could say he's crazy. He runs, they almost, and you could argue, gave away the game against Alabama. LSU finds a way to win tough ball games. What does Clemson have to do, though? Get the ball to Sammy Watkins. You can't have another game like you did against South Carolina where Watkins is not getting touches. If you have to put him at the running back position like you did against Florida State, you have to do that. You have to begin to create conflicts for that very talented LSU defense. The other thing I would say, and if I had Chad Morris sitting here with me right now, I'd say, Chad, listen, don't give up on the running attack. Don't give up on Andre Ellington early. Continue to rush the football. Even if you get down, and this is something I think we've seen from Chad Morris, is when Clemson is down, he bails out a little bit on the run. And I get it's a clock game, but we're a fast-paced, high-tempo, up-tempo offense. No huddle. Let's keep the ball on the ground. LSU kept half of its opponents under 100 yards rushing this season. And Clemson has gotten over 100 yards in every single game, over 200 yards in, I believe, 5 ball games so far this year. It is a contrast of styles from what you saw last season in West Virginia and LSU. Completely. Offensively, what Clemson will be going up against from a defensive perspective, look, you could say we were prepared, we weren't prepared, whatever. You could say if Andre Ellington doesn't get stripped at the goal line, maybe Clemson finds a way to win the Orange Bowl last season. But this year against LSU, it's a completely different ball game. Completely different type of attack. Physical, pounding, grinding, grueling. Playing against the best conference and arguably the best division in all of college football. And I don't even know if there's an argument. Before the weekend, the final weekend of the season, I was one of you. I was skeptical of the SEC and its power. South Carolina beats Clemson down. Florida beats Florida State down. Georgia smacks Georgia Tech. All of a sudden, I was no longer a skeptic of what the SEC and ESPN were selling me. I said, you know what, that's a good conference. The best in America. A huge offensive line. Tailback by committee. And these tailbacks are as big, if not bigger, than Clemson's linebackers right now. And that concerns me a little bit because when LSU's running the ball downhill, that's going to open things up for Zach Mettenberger. And he does have a pretty good arm. His wide receivers have let him down this season with a number of drops, and that's why his numbers aren't better, and that's why their wide receiver numbers aren't better. And Clemson's secondary has been suspect, and you got to hope, if you're going to win this game, Clemson, that there are some drops. Odell Beckham Jr., one of the best return men in the game, very good, very serviceable wide receiver. Jarvis Landry has really stepped forward this season for LSU too. You know, you think about these two teams and what's on the line. Clemson has a whole lot more to gain. LSU really has everything to lose. Clemson should come in playing very, very calm and prepared. They shouldn't be playing on edge or nervous. They shouldn't play tight. This should be a very loose game for Clemson. But will it be because of the weight that comes in from what happened last season? And when we talk about the final thing that could tell the tale, special teams play. Clemson has done very little in returns, both punting and on kickoffs. And for whatever reason, Clemson has been very inconsistent kicking the ball off with the ball moved up, which has allowed some teams to have very good field position against the Tigers. That's huge. That's important. You can get into where these two teams are ranked offensively and defensively and understand that it is a contrast on that side of the ball when Clemson's offense is going up against a very good LSU defense. Third down conversions, LSU great against it. Clemson converts unbelievably well. One of the top in the country. And I've gone back and forth, but this game will be decided at the line of scrimmage. As good as Clemson's skill players are, as good as Taj Boyd has been, better numbers than the Heisman Trophy winner in my mind. I would like to go with Clemson in this game. I think we've got an excellent opportunity at hand. But my prediction this weekend is not based on what I feel in my heart, but what I've seen in my head. And my head's telling me that Clemson has to go out and prove on the big stage, not just to me, but to everybody, that they're ready to be that next level team. I completely think that next season could be an unbelievable year, especially if guys like Hopkins are back in the fold and Taj Boyd. But this game, Monday night against LSU, I just can't take Clemson winning it based on what we saw in the final home game. So for me, it's going to be a close one still, though. Much closer than last year. But LSU finds a way to get it done. 31-28. Hate me if you want to, but that's how it's going to go down. We'll see you next week. Actually, Sunday night. Right here on TigerNet Talk.